Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us here at Ignite for this Learn Live session on Microsoft Sentinel Threat Analytics. My name is Maria Sousa-Valadas, and I am a Senior Product Manager in the Microsoft Sentinel team. And I'm here today with my colleague Neelam. Hey, Neelam.
Yes. Hey, everyone. My name is Neelam Nursee, and I'm a Product Manager in the Microsoft Sentinel Customer Experience Engineering team. And so both Maria and I, we work with customers on their Sentinel deployments to enable them to fully utilize the amazing capabilities we have with Microsoft Sentinel. And wishing you all a very warm welcome, and I hope you enjoy the session. Just before we start, big thank you to our team in the backstage. So we have our producer, Kimberly Murphy, and our two moderators here, Ken Lawson and Abdul Rasheed Feroz Khan, for doing an amazing job supporting this session and monitoring the Q&A.
Yes, and since you mentioned that, just a quick reminder, this is a live and interactive session, which means you can ask in the chat any questions you have, and our moderators will take them. So here is the Learn module we are covering today. It is published on our Learn site, and here is a short link as well as a QR code, so you can navigate easily to it. We recommend opening it now because there are some resources you will need if you want to follow along, like the ARM template to deploy the demo environment.
Yeah, and just to add to this, there will be some exercises, like Maria said, that we will present during this Learn module. And we all know there is a demo god helping us out there, but some of them can take more time to implement than others. So to avoid these glitches, we have already prepared the exercises in the backend ready for demo. So feel free to follow us if you have an Azure subscription, or if you prefer to just sit back and watch, that's also perfectly fine.
So the goals of this module are to explain the importance of Microsoft Sentinel Analytics, to talk about the different types of analytic rules, to learn how to create new analytics and queries using the analytics rule wizard, and also to manage rules with modifications like make updates, editing, etc. It is a lot of content, as you see, and we only have 60 minutes, so let's jump right into it. So Neelam, before we head into the Learn module, let's give a brief recap of what Sentinel does, right? So now I'll let you take the screen.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. So nowadays we see cyber threats, attacks like ransomware, which keep on emerging and becoming more and more advanced. And having the right tools to monitor and respond to these threats are critical. So with this, we bring innovative threat monitoring capabilities to Microsoft Sentinel. And for those who are not familiar, so Microsoft Sentinel is our cloud-native security information and event management tool, or SIEM for short, which provides an end-to-end solution for your security operations. So Sentinel is essentially your bird's eye view across the enterprise, so reducing the stress of increasingly sophisticated attacks and increasing volume of alerts and long resolution timeframes. The four capabilities of Sentinel are highlighted here. So first, we have data collection at scale to create visibility across all users, devices, applications, and infrastructure. So whether it's on premises or in multiple clouds, for example, you can collect logs from your servers, firewalls, logs from Azure and other clouds like AWS or Google Cloud Platform, and even any custom logs like from your applications, for example. Second, we have detection. So it allows you to detect previously undetected threats and minimize false positives using analytics and unparalleled threat intelligence tools that we have. Then we have the powerful incident investigation tools with artificial intelligence to investigate threats and hunt for suspicious activities at scale. And the last pillar here, which is super cool, is about responding to incidents quickly with built-in orchestration and automation of common tasks. So all this goodness and content we are continuously being innovated to respond to industry threats. So in today's session, we are specifically going to focus on on this area, which is the threat detection capability of Microsoft Sentinel Analytics, so which uses detection rules templates to automatically search across your environment for threats and anomalous behaviors and any activity that looks suspicious. So let's head right into our scenario for today. So we have a security analyst who is part of the Security Operations Center, or SOC, at Contoso, which is a mid-sized financial services company. So Contoso uses several Microsoft products, and they include services that you see in this list for security and threat protection. So like, for instance, Defender for Cloud Apps, Entra ID Protection, Defender for Identity, and so on. So these tools, they enable Contoso to protect its entire digital estate. So this will include Contoso's Azure environment and on-premises resources or any other non-Microsoft assets. So now, it's great that they use all these amazing products to protect the digital estate, but imagine the volume of alerts being generated by these products. It can be a lot of work to triage all these alerts across different portals, and they are currently doing this manually. So to address this scenario, we are going to set up Microsoft Sentinel, and we will see how we can use analytics rules to have a single pane of glass to collect alerts from different products, as well as to do correlation between all the logs generated across by these products across the different dashboards in the cloud or on premises. And we have our first exercise. And in this one, we are going to cover 3 tasks. So first of all is to deploy Microsoft Sentinel using an Azure Resource Manager template or ARM template. We are going to check the resources that we created, and we are going to configure a Microsoft Sentinel connectors. So again, feel free to follow along if you have an Azure subscription, but if you don't, then don't worry, you can just watch and do it later. Okay, so let's first head into the Learn module here. So this is exercise in the Unit 2 of the module. We are going to go ahead and click this here, which is the Deploy to Azure link. And I'm going to sign in with my account. If you have one, please use this one. And it brings us to a custom deployment template. Like you can see here, you can specify the name of a resource group. I would suggest to create a new one if you're doing this exercise live. Specify your region, a workspace name. And here you will see it's also creating a virtual machine, which we are going to use later on in the other exercises. So go ahead and create this template. I will not do it now because it will take a few minutes to complete. And I have already deployed it before this session. So I'm going to head directly into Microsoft Sentinel and into my workspace. So again, for those who are not familiar with Sentinel, we have an empty workspace here. So there's nothing in it. So to be able to connect any data source or solution to it, we need to go to the Content Hub. So just a little bit of background here on the Content Hub. So it is a catalog which we use to centrally deploy Microsoft Sentinel content like data connectors, workbooks, analytics rules, automation, or any type of Sentinel content to your workspace. And currently, the Content Hub hosts around 300 plus solutions from different providers, and this keeps on growing. So let's go ahead and deploy our first solution, which is the Azure Activity. And you can have a look at at what it does here, and you can see the content type that it contains. And if you want to go into, let's see further details about it, you can go ahead and click on View Details. And you can go ahead and click on the Create here, which will bring you into a configuration page. So here I'm going to pick my resource group and pick a workspace and click on Next. So there is a data connector that will be deployed. there'll be a workbook called Azure Activity that's going to be deployed as well. We will have some analytic rules, which we'll go into right after. So you can see the different analytic rules that's going to be enabled in the workspace. You also have some hunting queries, and you can go through them, like you can see which hunting queries will be deployed, and we can go ahead and create this solution. There we go.
So Neelam, now that you're deploying this solution, once you have the connector, you will be able to bring logs from Azure Activity, which include logs from your resources that you deploy into Azure, like, for example, the virtual machine that you deployed earlier, or the solution that you deployed using the ARM template, as well as other logs like security, service health logs from Azure, right? So we can use them also on Sentinel to do monitoring.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that's essentially what the Azure Activity solution will bring. So now that we have deployed the solution, we can go ahead into our data connectors, and there it is. So we have successfully deployed the template, installed the solution, and we have our connector. So here you can see like an overview of this connector, but we are going to go into it just to enable it. And for this specific connector, you need a workspace, of course, with read and write permissions. It's a policy-based kind of connector, so we are going to create a policy assignment scope for it, which will be based at subscription level. So let's go ahead and create this policy. So we will launch the policy wizard. And the scope here, you can choose to either collect logs from your subscription at subscription level or at resource group level. So I'm going to choose subscription here. And I'm going to leave the other settings as they are. This one as well. And in the parameters, very important, you need to pick the workspace where you want these logs to be collected. So I'm going to pick my Learn Live workspace. Here it asks you that you will have to create a management identity for it. So just make sure that it's in the same region as your resources. So for me, I'm in West Europe, so I'm going to pick West Europe. And we go ahead and create the connector. Yeah, so we have successfully connected it, and it will take up to 15 minutes to show as connected, and it will start bringing in the logs. So let's head back to the slides in the meantime.
Yes, I'm going to reshare and going back to the slides. So we now should talk about analytics before we head into the exercises that we're going to do on the workspace. And I think, well, we gave you some hints earlier on the introduction about analytics, but let's talk a bit more specifically. Analytics is a feature within Sentinel that helps you detect and investigate cybersecurity threats. In fact, we also refer to them as detections or detection rules. Analytics raise alerts and incidents based on their findings. That means that we, the Contoso SOC team in this scenario, can use them to detect threats in our environment. So why and how do we use analytics? We already said that Contoso has implemented other security products like Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft Defender for Office, etc. But with Sentinel, as we mentioned earlier, you can collect logs from any sources you want. You can collect logs from your firewalls and other network devices. You can collect logs from your servers on-prem, Linux, Windows, doesn't matter, even custom logs. One of the great values of Sentinel is that you can do correlation, and that's when analytics come into play, because with them, we can match the signals that impact the presence of a cybersecurity threat. So maybe, Neelam, at this stage, we could share a use case.
Yes, definitely. So for instance, you could identify compromised accounts. So let's say you have a user with a successful logon after multiple login failures. And imagine that user is logging in from a malicious IP. And we know it's malicious because we are correlating this with indicators of compromise from the threat intelligence, which can also be ingested into Sentinel. But it's not just that. You can also detect suspicious patterns, like for instance, users who never access a resource and are accessing it for the first time. And you can also do like network traffic analysis to locate trends and so on.
Right, and with these findings, you can trigger alerts and incidents that you can then investigate. So now let me jump to the portal and show you where you'll find the analytics. I'm here on Sentinel, and here on the left, you have all the different blades. I clicked on analytics. I'm going to collapse this so it's easier to read. And here at the top, we have the header. You have the options to create detections. You have the analytics workbooks. So workbooks are visualizations that allow you to see data like reports. So these are a couple that are relevant for analytics. You also have the options to enable, disable rules. And then here right below, we have information about our active rules. You have a link to the Content Hub because, as we said, you need to deploy first the templates from the Content Hub, and then some metrics about, how many rules you have by severity. And then right below, we have information about our active rules. So we have the templates, we have the tabs for active rules, for rule templates, and anomalies. If I look at active rules, I can click on them, and then here on the right, I can expand this pane, which contains information about my rules. So here I can see first title, the ID of this rule, a description, tactics and techniques. So our rules are mapped to not only analytics, also hunting queries. They're mapped to the tactics and techniques from the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which you can then use in the MITRE dashboard to see how you are covering for the different tactics and techniques. You can see the rule query, and then below you have some settings like rule frequency, rule threshold, etc. We'll talk a bit about them later. Then on the rule templates, you have all the templates that we have deployed from the Content Hub. Remember that templates are just templates. That means that if you deploy a template, you need to actually click on it, and you need to click on Create Rule. And finally, we have the anomalies right here. So anomalies, we'll talk about them in detail as well. They're a special kind of rule. So now I think we are ready for our knowledge check.
Yes, we are ready for some fun. Okay, so we have a knowledge check. Get your phones ready, everyone. So we are going to head into our first question of the module. And this question is actually part of the learning module. This one, you can go ahead and scan this QR code or go to this link to connect to it. And the question here is, which of the following aren't common use cases of analytic rules? So A, identifying compromised accounts, B, detecting insider threats, or C, visualizing data from Microsoft Sentinel connectors. Oh my gosh, that's so easy, right, Maria?
Yeah, I'm starting to see the first votes. So let's wait a little and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it should be quite easy. Just to emphasize, which of the following are not common use cases, right?
Are not. Yeah, exactly. They're not. Aren't. Yeah, it's like the way it's written. Yeah.
Yeah. So I still see votes coming in, so we may need to wait a little bit.
Yeah. Another few seconds.
Wow, votes are still coming in.
Yeah. Very good. Very
so we
good.
should give the audience some time because, this is the fun part, right? The knowledge check.
Yeah, it is. All right. I see a mix of votes here. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have to say that the right option is winning.
Yeah, correct. And well, should we do the big reveal?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What do you think, Maria?
Well, I think that if you want to visualize data from connectors, you would probably use a workbook, right? Because it's like a
Correct.
report.
Yeah.
So it's C, it's not a
It's
common use
C.
case.
Absolutely. It's C. So yeah, well done to everyone who voted on C. Exactly. So you cannot visualize data with analytics rules. You have to use Microsoft Sentinel Workbook to present and visualize the data collected from the security connectors. So let's go ahead to our second question. And this one, you want to find additional information that explains the analytics template and the role that is used in detection of the threats. In which section in the analytic rules page provides that information? So we have A, the details pane, B, header bar, or C, rules and templates section. Wow, this is such an easy one. I think we have the answer in the question itself.
Yeah, exactly. I think it should be easy. I'm seeing votes already.
Yeah, there we go.
So where would you find additional information? That kind of gives a clue, as you said.
Yeah.
So let's wait a few seconds. Because still see votes coming in.
Oh, wow, we have a mix of responses.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a mix of between, from what I see, a mix of A and C.
A and C. So
right.
Should we reveal it?
Yeah, let's do the big reveal. So if you want to find additional information that explains the rule template, it's in the details pane. It's the details view pane that contains additional information and that explains the template and the rule that is using the detection. So we are going to show this more in the demos as we go. So very good attempt for everyone who voted on A. All right, so let's head into the different types of analytics rules that we have in Sentinel. So the built-in or out-of-the-box analytics rules templates that are available in Microsoft Sentinel allow you to search for potential threats, and there are currently 7 types, as you can see on the screen here. So by configuring these rules, you can set up alerts and incidents based on the data coming from the sources that are connected to Sentinel. So Maria, let's dig into the first one, which is the schedule rule.
Yes, so scheduled analytics rules provide the highest level of customization because you can define your own query using custom query language or KQL. That's the query language we use on Log Analytics and Sentinel. And it allows you to filter the events you want to look for. So you can set up a schedule for the rule to run, and you can use these logs for correlation of, you can use these rules to do correlation of the logs in your tables and watch lists, threat intelligence, etc. Neelam, can you think of a use case?
Yeah, so the most common use case is your own custom use cases. So essentially, it allows you to develop your own threat detection logic as you have full control over the rules construction and maintenance. So an example in this screenshot, for instance, we see the KQL logic here in the query pane. And here it identifies IPs with failed attempts to sign in on one or more disabled accounts, but was still able to successfully sign into another account. So the 50057 here means like a user account is disabled and the account has been disabled by an administrator. And what the query is doing is looking for any related successful logins. So that will be an example of a schedule rule. The next one we have is Fusion.
Yes, Fusion is a very special kind. And although you will see there is only one Fusion analytic, it can trigger more than 120 different types of incidents, which is pretty awesome. Fusion alerts identify suspicious activities at various stages of the cyber kill chain. And this is done by correlating alerts from various products like Microsoft Defender for endpoint, Microsoft Defender for cloud apps, etc. And with machine learning to detect advanced multi-stage attacks. So again, Neelam, I think we can share a use case.
Yeah, sure. So one use case of Fusion logic is for ransomware detections. So Fusion Engine generates an incident when it detects like multiple alerts of different types. So coming from specific data sources like Defender for cloud, Defender for endpoint, Defender for cloud apps, etc. And it determines that they may be related to some ransomware activity. So that's how it kind of correlates things. So the next one we have is machine learning behavioral analytics.
Mm-hmm. This type of rule uses Microsoft ML algorithms to detect suspicious activity on logs coming specifically from syslog and Windows security events.
Yeah, and a typical use case for this one is to identify anomalous access specifically via the remote desktop protocol or RDP and secure shell or SSH ports, as you can see here in the screenshot. And there are only two of them available in Sentinel, either for RDP or for SSH. And the next one we have is NRT.
Yes, NRT stands for near real time. And that's because this kind of rule runs every minute and it captures events ingested in the preceding minute to make sure that we don't miss any data. They are similar to scheduled analytics because you can write your own query, but there are some limitations. Like, for example, you can only have up to 50 of this kind in your workspace.
Yeah, and it is ideal for high priority, high fidelity detections. So if you have something you need to detect within a minute, this is ideal. An example would be someone is performing sensitive operations on your Azure resources, like the one you see in the screenshot. For example, someone is trying to create expensive VMs or expensive computes in Azure, so we have a special NRT rule for it. Okay, another cool one, anomalies.
Yes, anomalies are very interesting. They detect suspicious or unusual behaviors, and they do not trigger alerts. What they do is they log the results into a table called anomalies, which you can use for correlation with other sources. And another thing that's interesting about them is that they're enabled by default.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are used, again, to mainly identify strange behaviors, like, for example, multiple failed login attempts on a single user account, which can be a brute force attempt on a user account, like you see in this example. Okay, Microsoft Security.
Yes, Microsoft Security Analytics trigger incidents based on alerts that come from specific Microsoft security products, like, for example, Microsoft Defender for IoT.
Yeah, so this is just incident generation type of rule. So we'll look at it in a few minutes. Yes, we have next is Defender for TI.
Yes, last but not least, this type of rule matches your logs like Ceph, syslog, Office activity, Azure activity with indicators of compromise from Microsoft Defender for threat intelligence, even if you're not ingesting any IOCs through this connector. Yeah.
Yeah, so then, for example, once it finds an IOC, it will write it in the threat intelligence indicator table, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's head into our next exercise, which is on Unit 5, create analytics rule from templates. So I'm going to head into the portal. So first, this is the unit we are going to cover, Unit 5, and I'm going to show you in the Sentinel portal. Here I'm on the analytics blade in Microsoft Sentinel, and currently I don't have any active rules. I have the rule templates tab here, which will show me all the rules that I have created from the Content Hub, which I have enabled from the solutions. But before we go ahead and create a rule, I'm going to first show you the different rule types that we just discussed. So you can click on filter here by the rule type, and you will see all the 7 of them are here. So if we take Fusion, for example, this is the rule, the Fusion rule, and we can go ahead and see the details about the Fusion rule. And this is already pre-created in Microsoft Sentinel. You can just go ahead and create it here. Another one is machine learning behavior analytics. Like we mentioned earlier, there are only 2 of them. So one is for RDP and one is for SSH. The other rule type that's pretty cool as well is the TI, which we just talked about. And these are the different sources that currently it correlates with. So let's go ahead and create a rule from the template. And I'm going to pick a Microsoft security rule type here. So I'm going to pick the one that's create incidents based on Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And go ahead and have a look at the information here. And we can click on create rule, which will bring us to the analytics rules wizard, where we can see the different sections of it. So in the general tab here, you can modify the rule details, set the status, and choose to kind of filter the alerts by severity. Or by text containing the alert's name. So for example, if you choose high in the filter by severity field, it like only high severity security alerts will automatically create incidents in Microsoft Sentinel. So that's how you can filter it. And if you want to like kind of, for example, in this specific use case, exclude specific alerts, if you don't want to have like noisy logs coming from a specific type of log, so you can exclude specific alerts based on the text that you specify. On the automated response tab here, you can choose to add an automation rule, which will provide a response action to this analytics rule. So for example, I want to assign an incident, or I want to assign all incidents generated to a Microsoft Defender for Cloud analyst. So let's create it. So here I want to assign to MDC analyst when an incident is created, or you can also pick when an incident is updated. So I'm going to leave it as it is. You can add more conditions as you like to, if you would prefer to have more granular type of response. So you can say, if the title contains a specific text here, and then you go into the actions. So you can choose from these actions to respond to that incident. You can choose to run a playbook. And if you have playbooks in your environment, whichever relevant one you can choose. Or you can also choose to assign owner, which I'm going to do. I want it to be assigned to Adele, for instance, and I want to also add a tag to it saying MDC alert rule. Okay, and you can go ahead and add more actions as you depending on the use case. So you can change the severity from high into medium or something, and so on. You can also set the rule expiration here if you want the rule to expire after a certain amount of time, or you can leave it as indefinite. So we are going to go ahead and create it. So we have our automation rule applied here. We just go ahead and save it. So yes, so now we have created an analytic rule from the template, and it's here under the active rules tab here. So if we go back into the rule templates tab, you're going to see this little tag here saying that it's in use, which means that we have successfully created the rule, and it's being used by the workspace. One more thing I would like to mention is you can also create this type of rule by going ahead, like click on Create, select Microsoft Incident Creation Rule, and you'll have more or less the same template where you need to fill in the name, the description, and you can here put the analytics rule logic by a Microsoft security service. So earlier we had Microsoft Defender for Cloud, but you can pick any of these other Microsoft services to create the rule. It will be the same kind of logic as we had with the previous one. Okay, so I think we have a knowledge check.
We do.
Let's go ahead. Okay, question 3. Which one of the analytics rule can you customize with your own query rules? A, Fusion, B, machine learning behavior analytics, or C, scheduled analytic rules. Oh wow, that's so easy. I keep on saying that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Yeah.
I see some votes coming through already, so that's good.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy based on responses.
Yeah,
I
think it's quite.
Almost everyone that is
Yeah.
right is getting it right.
I'm glad everyone is listening to us then. Yeah. Yes, that's good. Let's see more votes coming through. Yep.
Let's wait a few seconds because I still see people voting.
Yeah.
You have to have your phone with you, right? For the QR code to be fast.
Yes. All right. Okay, I think we can reveal. Yeah, I see a lot of people voting for A, but this is not right. It's wrong. The correct answer is C, and I see a lot of course, most of the votes were on C. Very good. The reason A is not correct is because Fusion cannot be customized. You cannot. It has like very low customizable capabilities to it. And the one with the highest customization you can do is on schedule analytics, right?
Indeed.
Okay, to our next question. Which one of the following template rules are pre-created in Microsoft Sentinel Analytics? Oh, yeah, that's such an easy one. Okay, schedule template rules, Fusion, or machine learning behavior analytics templates.
It's an interesting one because I'm not sure we mentioned this about this rule, but it's actually something very special of this rule, right? That it's the only type that's pre-created in
it's
analytics.
The only type. Yeah, and the keyword here is pre-created. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, keyword pre-created. Again.
Yeah. Although I have to say that the ARM template that you use in this exercise, it does not come with this rule, but that's because it's a very custom ARM template that someone built just for the exercise. But if you deploy a Microsoft Sentinel the regular way, you will find the rule there. Just saying it because maybe people will be checking what rule is pre-created and they will see, wow, I don't have any. That's the reason. So let's see.
Okay, we have a mix of all three.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's the reason because.
Yeah. Okay. I take back what I said. Maybe it was not so easy. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a confusing one. Okay. Should we reveal then?
Yeah, I think we can reveal it. Yes.
Okay. So the correct answer here is Fusion. So Fusion again is already pre-created in Sentinel. So that's something you don't have to deploy from the Content Hub because it's already there. Yeah. And it's enabled. Right.
enabled by default. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We have another exercise. Maria,
Yeah.
over to you.
I'll take the screen. So this exercise is in unit number 6, and it is to create an analytics rule from the wizard. So here, if you want to follow along, you will find the query that you can copy. What we're going to do with this analytic is try to detect virtual machines that were created in the environment. So let's suppose that we are concerned about a high number of VMs being created, and in that case, we may want to track it. So we're going to see how to do that. Under Analytics, like we were here before, I'm going to click on Create Scheduled Query Rule. Remember, that's the one that you can fully customize. I'm going to give it a name, so it's going to be Suspicious VM Creation. You should give it a description, but this is a demo. I'm going to skip that part, and it's not mandatory. I'll pick severity medium here because I have to pick something, but I'm actually going to show you in a few seconds that you can make this dynamic. So severity is going to change dynamically. And then we have the tactics and techniques from MITRE that we can map. And for some reason, okay, it's not working. So it's not loading now. Let me try again. Okay, so normally if you click,
we call it demo god.
It's the demo god. Yeah, indeed. So normally you will be able to use the checkboxes and check the right tactics and techniques. So here we set up the rule logic, and in the rule query, I'm just going to paste my query because if I try to write the KQL in the demo, I'm sure the demo god will not help me. So I'm going to paste it right here. Note that you can expand this box, make it a bit bigger. It's going to verify that your query is correct. If it's wrong or if you don't have this table, it will fail. That could be a reason for failure. It will show some red in here. And let me just explain what my query does. So in the first place, I took the query from the Learn module and I modified it a little just to make it more interesting because this is Ignite, so we should make it a little bit more interesting. So we're looking at the Azure Activity Table. Remember, that's the table that's coming from the connector Neelam setup. And here I'm looking for virtual machines that were created with this operation name and status success, of course. I want to get the number of resource IDs, that is the number of VMs that were created by color. So the color is the identity and color IP address. I added this because I want to know. And I'm checking in blocks of 1 day. So normally, I had to, zoom out a little bit to see this because of my resolution at the moment. Normally, this should load the test with current data, so you can see how many events you would be getting per day. And that's helpful because then you know what's the average of alerts per day and if it's going to generate too much noise. So I'll explain the rest of the query in a second. Let me first jump into the alert enhancement options. First, we have entity mapping. So I want to add my entities. I'm going to select account because remember I said I have the color. That's the field that contains the identity. I'm going to add the IP as well. So I'm going to select address, and here I'm going to select color IP address. Why do we map entities? Well, there are many reasons, many good reasons. One of them is that when you see an incident, you'll see what entities are part of it. You can click on the entity, you can see details about that entity, you can see if there are previous alerts, if there are anomalies related to it. You can also run playbooks or automations on an entity. You can see incidents that are similar to the current one you're looking at based on the entity. This entity is really involved in other scenarios. So as you can see, entities are really important. We have custom details. I don't have any fields in here that I want to map, but for example, imagine I had the operating system, so I could write here OS, and then I would be able to select the right field. And then we have the alert details, and this is where I'm going to make it a bit dynamic. So I want to make this suspicious VM created by, and I want to see the name of the user in my incident. So I'm going to write a curly bracket, and now I can select one of my fields. I'm going to select color. I can also use these dynamic fields here in the description. I'm going to skip that. And then the alert properties. Remember, I said I wanted to make the severity dynamic. So here, if we look at the query, I'm actually calling a watch list. So a watch list is a list of items I want to use for correlation. In this case, I have network addresses of Contoso's branch offices. So if the IP is in this list, I consider that a safe IP. So I'm extending here the severity. I'm saying that if the caller IP address is not in the safe IPs, I want my severity to be high. Otherwise, it should be low. So I'm going to go ahead, select here severity, but you see there are other options as well. And severity is the field. Then you have things like query scheduling, how often you want it to run. It can go as low as 5 minutes. If you want lower than that, you have the NRT rules. And how far back you want to look, you can go back to up to 14 days. You can decide when you want to start running it. So it could be automatically or at specific time. Like if you're going to run it every hour, maybe you want to, put it on the dot. You can decide the threshold. So maybe if you see too many results, like here, I'm going to say, okay, my threshold should be 3. And here you can see that my threshold is actually too high. So I'm going to delete it. But you see, you also get that view in the graph, which is nice. So here I'm going to say 0. That means that as long as I have one alert, I want to trigger an incident. I'm going to group all events into a single alert. That is recommended to avoid too much noise. Incident settings, you can decide whether you want to enable the creation of an incident or not. Normally you would, but just so you know, you have lots of options. You can also group alerts. So if there are multiple alerts found in a time frame, like in this case, by default, it's 5 hours, you can choose that. What will happen is that alert will be included in the same incident, so you don't get multiple incidents. And you can also group alerts based on, for example, if all the entities match. In my case, it's IP and user, so I'm going to select this one. You can choose to reopen close matching incidents, automated responses that Neelam showed earlier. I have one here. This basically runs a playbook that calls the VirusTotal database and checks if the IP that's mapped is malicious or not. And then we can create it. So after the validation passes, you can save. And now I don't want to wait. So I already deployed the same rule earlier. I'm going to go to incidents here at the top. And here I have, I think this one, this one was just rated. That was fast. So as you can see here, it says that there was a suspicious VM created by this user. That's because I used the dynamic field. The severity is set to high because that means the IP is not part of that watch list. Otherwise, the severity would be low. And then in the comments, we have, the comments still didn't come through because that's an automation. So I'll just choose this older one. You will see in the comments, I have a comment from the VirusTotal report that came through automation, which says this IP is harmless. I'm glad to hear that because it's my IP. And that was the demo.
Fantastic. So I will take the screen again quickly to go through the management of analytic roles. So let's see how we can actually manage analytics roles to in our workspaces. So to adjust noise and filter. So the more important threat detected you should manage the analytics rules on an ongoing basis. So on top of that, content packages from the Content Hub often gets updates, which means that you should also update your analytic rules based on the templates. And this will help ensure that your rules remain useful and efficient in detecting potential security threats. And you can see you can manage the analytic rules in different ways with edit and update, disable, duplicate, and delete. Here you can modify existing rules by selecting edit in the details pane when you edit an existing rule, and you will also see the tuning insights, which Maria just showed you as well. But I want to kind of highlight this. So the tuning insights below here show you the metrics about your rule. So kind of what percentage of alerts contain a certain entity or the closing reason. And with this information, you could potentially tune your analytic rule to make it more efficient. And maybe there is a specific user or identity that's triggering most of your false positives. And in that case, you may want to exclude it from the rule. So really, really helpful feature. So the next one here we have, so another option is, which is not mentioned in the Learn module, is to kind of review and update your rules. So one of the advantages of creating analytics from templates is that if there are any updates in your templates, then you have this tag showing up here to update the solution in the Content Hub. And what you can do is actually see and compare. So when you click on the review, you can visualize the difference between your existing rule and the latest version, and you can choose to apply any kind of modifications. Okay, knowledge check, the last one. All right, so due to ongoing maintenance activity, you need to stop receiving alerts from analytic rules temporarily. Which action should you enable on the rule to achieve that configuration? Very interesting question.
The votes.
Yeah.
I see already a few coming through. And we actually have one more question after this, but I would skip that because of the time. So I would say this should be our last question, if that's okay for everyone. So yeah, just make sure you vote. Last option, last chance.
Last question, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we are doing maintenance activity. We need to stop receiving alerts from analytic rules temporarily. So the keyword here is temporarily. Which action should you enable on the rule to achieve that? What do you think?
Everyone's voting the right one. So
oh yeah, all right. Let's show it then. Yeah, it's actually disable. So disable rules retain all the configuration and will temporarily stop creating the alerts from the configured detections while the rule is disabled. Okay. All right. So we will skip the next question and instead go into our next exercise. So which is over to you, Maria.
Yes. Thank you. So let me share my screen. And actually, the last exercise, if we look at this module, is very similar to the previous one we did. So we're going to skip that, and we suggest that you do it on your own later. Instead, I'm just going to show you anomalies, which are not covered in detail, and I think it will be more valuable for this session. So anomalies, as we said, are a special kind of rule because they do not trigger incidents and they do not trigger alerts. They write the results into the anomalies table and they work in a different way. So for this one, I'm going to use this rule, anomalous web request activity, which, as you can see, it's enabled. It's by default, it's enabled. So I want to edit it. And as you see here, well, you have information about the rule. You can see the threshold. So the threshold defines after what score or when it goes beyond what score do you want to trigger an anomaly. So I'm going to duplicate it. If you want to edit an anomaly, you need to duplicate it, because what you're going to do is you're going to go in here, you're going to edit it, and then you'll select the flighting mode, and you'll have two rules. In production is the one that comes by default, and then you have the flighting mode. And then in the configuration, you can define, as I said, the threshold, so you could increase it to get less results. And depending on the rule, you'll get some parameters. So in this case, for example, because this is an anomaly about web sessions, you can exclude some like noisy URI stems, or you can prioritize suffixes. So here there are a few that are predefined, but you can delete, add more, etc. And once you're ready, you can click on Review and Update, Save. And there you go. We have an anomalous web request activity rule in flighting mode. I just need to enable it. And these two will be running in parallel. So then I can go into logs, and I have another tab here, so I don't need to look for it. And you can look at the anomalies table. I'll just take a random one. And when you look at your results here, you'll see the template rule, the template name of the rule, the version, and note you can see the status as well. So this one is in production, and the score. So you can see how many results you're getting for the different scores, and that can help you decide what rule or what's the right threshold, right? And when you're ready, if you prefer the flighting mode rule, you can go here, you can edit it, and then you would go to mode, set it to production. This says that this rule will be set to production. That means that the production rule will be set to flighting. So I'm going to do that. And after that, well, I could disable the one that's now in flighting mode, which is the previous one. So that's how anomalies work, and you can then use them, you know, for correlation. You can build detections using them. So there are lots of options. Just wanted to show you that. And to wrap up, we're going to the last few slides in our last few minutes. So this is a summary of what we covered today with a link to the session, to the Learn Live module, I mean, and we covered the importance of Microsoft Sentinel Analytics. We explained the different types of analytics rules, created rules from templates, and also from the wizard. We showed you how to manage rules with modifications, and as a bonus track, we added anomalies. Additionally, here are some more resources to learn about Microsoft Sentinel. You'll find documentation, pricing details, roles, permissions, etc. Just use this short link. And finally, coming up next, don't miss this Learn Live session on the generation of images with Azure OpenAI, which is a super exciting topic. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed. We certainly had a lot of fun with you. Have a great time. See you soon.
Yes, thank you all, and enjoy the rest of Ignite.